One of the major meme coins on the base chain, Bread, is rallying a lot today. The question is why? Who's buying here, who's selling here, and how much higher can the price go? Let's have a look at some on-chain metrics, some data most people are not considering. Now this is the current situation. We are at 7 cents. The price appreciated by 26% today, and it's the 6th largest trending token on the base chain. There's $7.5 million worth of liquidity on the base chain. Now, in general, there's a lot of correlation within crypto, right? When Bitcoin is going up, a lot of altcoins go up as well. When Bitcoin goes down, the same is true for the altcoins. But there's also a direct connection between Bread and Ethereum. And that direct connection explains a lot of the price appreciation. While Bread went up by 26%, Ethereum during the same time frame went up by 16%. Now here's that direct connection. Bread is traded versus wrapped Ethereum on chain. Now that means that the price of Bread is not determined by its demand from US dollars. It's simply just its ratio between Ethereum and the token in the liquidity pool. In other words, when Ethereum goes up by 10%, then even without a single transaction, Bread will also go up by 10%. Because again, it's the ratio of wrapped Ethereum to Bread that determines the price. And so the majority actually of this rally can be explained by simply Ethereum going up. Now Bread went up a bit more than ETH, so there's additional demand, but still it's good to understand those mechanics. And so that then puts this chart here in perspective. This is the Bread price relative to Ethereum. So now we can actually see how much money is flowing in and out of Bread, how many Ethereum get deposited in the liquidity pool or get withdrawn from the liquidity pool. So now we remove all of the macro. We're not interested in the Bitcoin price. We're not interested in how much Ethereum is going up or down. We're just interested in the swapping activity into and out of Bread. And so we saw initial excitement after launch. Bread outperformed Ethereum by 77%. Then we saw insiders selling massively, an underperformance of 77%. And especially in the last month, Bread was able to outperform ETH by roughly 2x or 100%. And that outperformance over Ethereum then means a 3x in US dollar terms. But then that opens up the question, right? Who is actually buying here? Since Bread was outperforming Ethereum, what's pushing up the price? Is this the whales buying? Is this retail buying? Is this market manipulation? Is this leverage in the market? We can find answers to those questions when we dig deeper. Now here is the spot trading volume on Bread. And most of that does not happen on chain on Base. It actually happens on the centralized exchanges. Most trading volume occurs on Gate.io. But then we also have the bets on the price, the perpetual futures. And here the trading volume is much larger, and that's dominated by Binance. And so this gives us a hint that it's not just purchases on chain, but it's also the short-term speculation through the perps that influences the price. Here's where you can see this in detail. So in green, we've got the open interest. That's how much capital is currently in the bets on the price on Bread. And in yellow, we see the Bread price. And interestingly enough, there is some correlation here. When a lot of people bet on the Bread price, the spot market also tends to go up. When less people bet on Bread, the spot market tends to decline. And now with the rally, we see again more bets on the price. In what direction are those bets? It's mainly longs, or people bet on rising prices. There is a case to be made when a lot of people bet on falling prices. So when the shorts have to pay the longs, that sometimes we get a short squeeze. And over here, we see the same thing. As most people bet on falling prices, we had a bottom in the spot market as well. So this is then when the market makers and the whales bought up the price because they got quite a bit of return to bet on rising prices. Most of the time though, investors bet on rising prices, and this is healthy. This is how it should be. Let's have a look at the on-chain metrics. So we've got 800,000 holders on the base chain that hold Bread. But not all of those holders are created equal, right? Some of those wallets just have a few cents worth of Bread. That might be arbitrage trading bots. That might be all kinds of smaller holders. So let's have a look at what happened last month where the price 3x'd. Here we've got the number of new users versus returning users per day. And all days we see more returning users than new users. We don't necessarily see that much growth of new users either. We did have a high yesterday, but it's still relatively small compared compared to the number of new users. What we see over here is the number of retail investors versus whale investors in the last month. And so to be counted for the chart on the left, a wallet has to hold at least 135,000 BRED tokens. So at the current price, that equals roughly $1,000 worth of the token. We do see a growth in the number of retail investors, but it's not massive. Maybe in the last month, it went up by roughly 2 or 3%. The number of medium-sized investors is pretty much unchanged. 492, 493 wallets. The number of whale investors even went down from 95 to 90. So that's a decrease of a bit over 5%. Again, while the price went up by 3x. Parts of that can be explained by Ethereum going up by 55%, but the rest of it is not spot buying, but it's perpetual futures betting. So it's short-term leverage. Here are the same kind of charts over the very long term. And this very nicely explains why BRED is having such a hard time long term. It's the whales that sell off their supply over the months. So again, on the right side are the number of wallets that have at least $100,000 worth of BRED. And there is constant selling pressure here. Not so much in the last month. Yes, in the last month, the number of holders, as we said, went down by 5%. But the issue is that this is a very constant trend. And again, those wallets here on the right are 100 times more important than the wallets on the left. So 900 whale wallets equates to 9,000 retail investors. The capital that's in the wallets on the left is only half as large as the capital here on the right. At maximum, because again, those are minimum holding thresholds. And so retail doesn't buy up as quickly as the whales are selling. And that's what's causing those massive ups and downs in the price. That's why BRED didn't grow faster. It's the selling of the whales. But again, in the last month, everything is great because Ethereum is pushing up the price and because the levered bets on the price, the perpetual futures, are supporting BRED. There is a case to be made that BRED could still outperform Ethereum by another 82%. But at some point, the price is likely going to come back down again. At least if you continue to see the whales selling, and if then at some point the leverage gets out of the asset again. Now, it appears as if everything is going up in this market, but it's not as easy. It's still in the end a player versus player game, and a lot of people got wrecked before this rally. The top performing crypto categories right now are Politify, but also picking up now Solana memes and AI agents, all the kind of tokens that did very well just a few months ago. Now, especially with the smaller altcoins, it's not a fair game. It's player versus player, but it's also insiders versus the public. The public doesn't know as much as the insiders, and so on average, the average retail investor does lose money. It's really a rather mixed picture. Have a look at this. This is Solana's trending tokens. There's some green, there's some red, but in the end, even during the Memecoin hype in the last few months, Bitcoin dominance continued to go up. So clearly, it's not enough to just buy a representative basket of altcoins and hope for those to outperform Bitcoin. If we speculate with altcoins, we have to be somewhat active. Otherwise, we just go with BTC. BTC tends to do better than most altcoins most of the time. Now, very often the market makers and the insiders, they get away with this, right? For example, the Ohm token crashed by more than 90%, a drop of 4.5 billion. Up to this day, we still don't know who profited from this crash. The money is not gone. It's just held by somebody else. Now, what can we do in a situation like this? I think the best approach is to try to be as close as possible to the insiders. And that's the nice thing about the blockchain, right? We can see the official transactions. And if we do a bit of digging, we can find out the wallets of people that move prices. For example, over here, we've got transactions of Kyle Chessy and of other influencers that bought SPX 6900 very, very early. When we found the wallet of an insider, we can get notifications whenever those people buy and sell something. And because of that, I made a video on SPX 6900 in the early days. And that video was not that popular because most people didn't know about the token at the time. But it came out when the price was still at 10 cents. It then made this parabolic run of 1,300% and of course crashed back down with the rest of the market. But I try to be early on this channel. I try to cover tokens that are bought by the insiders that still have upside potential. So feel free to subscribe over here. Now here's another example, Fartcoin. We got purchase notifications at 4 to 5 cents and subsequently there was a 4000% run, then of course our correction, but still from that signal the price is up almost 2000%. It's all a player versus player game. The insiders make most money. And the way we get all of those signals is again by finding the wallets of people that influence the prices. So again, with the example of Kyle Chessy, we've got 12 of his wallets. In total, we track more than 419 wallets. We find the wallets through various approaches, the NFTs that they hold, the current holdings that they might make public, related transaction wallets, all kinds of different approaches. There are dedicated tutorial videos on how to find influencer wallets available as well. What you're seeing over here is the paid Telegram channel. So we've got a dedicated chat just on finding new influencer wallets where we then add them to our tracking channel. So that tracking channel is also available, of course, to the premium members. And so the closer we are to the people that move prices, the more we can mimic their performances. So over here, what we see is various trades that have been made by the community. Of course, I'm not sharing the exact tokens that have been traded, but yeah, those are some examples of what is achievable with the right information. So feel free to check it out. It's currently $125 per month. The link is down below. It's thebitcoinstrader.com. You will also see a link to the premium membership now directly popping up on this video. Again, if it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube or see you in premium. Cheers.